And so the the desire was for all of these seminars to deal with very real issues and to also provide very real actionable steps. Not every step you will hear today will be applicable to you, but I'll put it to you like this, especially those of you of faith. You know how sometimes you may read portions of the Bible and they don't speak to you now, but then you go back and read them and they speak to you at a different point in life. I hope that you'll be attentive to the entire seminar so that wherever you are in this season of your life, you will have an opportunity to actually to take this knowledge, share it with others who may need it now, apply it for yourself. And I'll have more words to say once we are done, but I am grateful in a special way for the Enon Tabernacle Baptist Church, having joined us as a partner within this. So that eventually the vision for this is that faith communities all over this country access these seminars. Even this year, I would like to get us to the point where perhaps the next one or before year end, where we have so many different people who want to be a part of this, that we have to get brand new Zoom numbers because so many folk have heard and been blessed by the information that is shared today. Welcome, and may the Lord be with us as we seek to be better stewards of the creation that God owns it all. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. It's all His. We're just stewards and managers of it. And I hope today that you will become better stewards of what God has blessed you with and could bless you with, and that you'll, in this Lenten season, be able to confess where you're not doing as well and go get some help. That's enough from this preacher, Pastor. Go ahead and do what you all came to do, fellow sponsors who are really going to take the helm for the rest of this until the very end. Thank you, Ramon Palmer. I think I'm introducing you, my classmate, who's vice president of NFCC. He'll say more about that, but we've known each other for quite some time. Ramon?
Absolutely. Thank you, Pastor Jones. I appreciate you. I'm going to give you a little bit about why we're here. We are here for some truth. We are here to make some connections. We're here to dispel some myths and misnomers, misinformation. We're here for a power boost. We're here to put those who are in need on a path to getting those needs addressed and fulfilled. For those who want to learn where the help is that they can trust. For those who want to be pushed on in the learning process by being connected with trustworthy resources. And on this adventure, I have to thank Pastor Jones, as you just heard. I have to thank Pastor Murphy. I have to thank Ms. Fulmore and Ms. Gonzalez for their commitment to this initiative. A lot of hard work has been done in putting this all together. And this would not have happened without them following a vision of uplifting and supporting our community. As you've heard, I am the vice president of the National Foundation for Credit Counseling, the NFCC. Give you a quick little bit about that. It was founded in 1951. It is the nation's first and largest nonprofit dedicated to improving people's financial well-being. Our mission is to support our member agencies in their work to empower consumers to address their financial challenges and take charge of their futures. We've got members in all 50 states and Puerto Rico. And in the last 5 years, we served over 7.2 million clients. Now, I know a lot of us on this call, there is a continuum. Some are very skilled at managing their finances. Some, maybe not so much. Maybe it's a function of where you are in the life cycle. Maybe you're just starting out. What this series is meant to do is, regardless of where you are, we're going to be presenting topics that are relevant to some part of your life journey. And we want you to become, as Pastor indicated, better stewards of your money. And the best way to do that is to tap into the knowledge and the resources that are made available. As you all know, we are coming through a pandemic that has just upended a lot of households. And as a result, people are in a state of turmoil. First, let me say it's not your fault. There are a lot of people. In fact, I've been exposed to some data that says everybody has been affected, from lawyers doctors, pilots, sanitation workers, waiters and waitresses. So anybody can be affected by this pandemic. The thing is, if you are affected, even if you are not, you can always learn more to be a better steward of your money. You can always learn more to set the path of achieving your financial goals. That's what this is about. We're going to have quarterly sessions like this. And as we get your feedback in the chat, if we touch on subjects that you want to go deeper on, please let us know. Or if we missed a subject that you'd like us to go deeper on, please notify us in the chat. Let us know, because we'll have these quarterly meetings, but we'll also have the opportunity to have other meetings. We call them deep dives, to really go in to address those topics and subjects that you might want to learn more about. And I'm not going to go on. I'm going to instead pass it on to Cora Fulmore, who will be our key facilitator for this session. And she is with the president of the Diversified Resource Network. Cora, are you there?
Yes, I am, and pretty excited about today's presentation. But before I get started, allow me to introduce Latanya Gonzalez from Freddie Mac. And Latanya, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hi, Cora. Hello, Herman. Hello, Pastor Jones. And I also see Reverend Kevin Murphy has joined us.
Yay.
So
Yay.
I want to, before we get started, everybody, I am your producer for the day. I am Latanya Gonzalez from Freddie Mac, the secondary mortgage company. But I'd like to make sure everyone knows that we have a chat box and a Q&A box. Please, at this time, if you are online, go ahead and locate your chat box and go ahead and click on it. Thank you to everyone who shouted out their churches earlier, the different cities that you were from. I am so happy to see the diversity of this group, but I want to make sure everyone has an opportunity to ask questions. As Herman pointed out, we want to get into questions, real questions that people have, and allow you to be a part of this discussion. So without ado, I'm looking around to see if you guys have the raised hand. I'm going to click on mine so that you can see that. If you want to go ahead, thank you. I see Valerie is in the chat, so we've located it. We also have a Q&A box if you want to ask questions. As Pastor Jones said, today you're going to learn about protecting your home and the assets. We'll talk about generational wealth. We'll talk about actually the wealth gap. We'll talk about resources that you can use. This is for homeowners. This is for renters. And this will also be for the unbanked. So please do not be shy, but I'd also like to allow Reverend Murphy to say a few words. Are you there, Reverend Murphy? I see you on the list here, so I'm hoping you can come off mute.
Yes, I am off mute, and I apologize for my tardiness. I was dealing with an electric emergency. I had no power until just about 2 minutes before Brother Herman gave me a call. I just want to say welcome to all of you. I commend you all for being here, because it lets me know how serious you are about getting this type of financial literacy and understanding how to utilize your finances and credit, and how to protect your homes and things of that nature. And so just welcome aboard. God bless you all. And I'll turn you back over to our subject matter experts.
Thank you so much. Without ado, I'd like to introduce you all to Cora Fulmore. She has over 30 years of industry experience. She's recognized as an expert in consumer credit issues, student loan debt, foreclosure avoidance, homeownership counseling, and education. From 1997 to 2014, she opened and operated the Mortgage and Credit Center and provided direct housing counseling services. In 2014, she created Diversified Resource Network with a membership of over 4,700 members. I am so delighted to bring my friend, mentor, host to you today to expound on her knowledge. Thank you, Cora.
No, thank you. And thank you to everyone. I am so excited about tonight and the fact that you all are here. I want to echo exactly what everyone has said, please, if you've got questions, if you've got comments, please use the Q&A box and also the chat box. We want to hear from you because this is information for you that we've developed, and we want to make sure that you get it. Now, please, in order to avoid background noise, if for some reason your mic should open up, please make sure you mute your mic so that there won't be any distractions. I need you to stay focused because we've got a lot of information to cover in such a short time to do it. Avoid multitasking, but I want to encourage that you take notes because this taking notes is so important to what you're trying to get out of this particular training. Also, if you have a problem with your bandwidth, please try closing out some of your apps that you may have open and also open windows. This will give you a better bandwidth and allow things to flow pretty freely. And ask questions. We love it. You know, please ask questions. We want you to ask questions. So we've got the Q&A. If you've got something burning and you want LaTanya to pay attention to you, please raise your hand. That's what the raise hand symbol is for, and she'll go to you really quickly so that we can address your particular question or comment. Now, we do have some handouts. LaTanya will be uploading the handouts into the chat box throughout the night to make sure that you get it. But don't worry, we will make sure that we'll send you the handouts within 24 hours of today's presentation. So if you've given us an email, we will definitely get that sent to you. If you've not, we've made sure that every church that's represented on the call today have a copy of all of the handouts in addition to today's presentation. We are recording, and I promise you, we will give you the link to the recording as well. At the end of today's presentation, there is a very short survey, and we need you to respond to the survey. The reason for the survey is for us to get an idea, we want to know how we do, of course, that's important, but more importantly than that is something that Herman said earlier, and also Pastor Cedric. It's really critical that we know what you want to learn, that we're hitting the mark, we're addressing topics that are important to you. So if there's additional subjects that you'd like for us to cover, please, in the survey, you'll be able to answer that and share that information. So let's go ahead and get started and talk about what we're going to cover today and what you should know. Today, it's really all about protecting your home asset and asset preservation. We really want to help you understand some factors that is affecting your financial stability. We want to spend some time having a conversation about the wealth gap, the great wealth transfer, some things that you should know, some pandemic resources that are available. And then we've created a toolkit that's an informational toolkit. You're going to be getting toolkits from us throughout, not just this presentation, but other presentations as well. So take advantage of that. And we've also, and we'll provide helpful resources to you that you can later look up, particularly for those of you who are on, you'll be able to see the links. And when you get the PowerPoint presentation, we've got some helpful links in the PowerPoint and a resource section that I think would be very helpful to you. So let's go ahead and get started. You know, the lack of knowledge really affects a lot of things. It affects the economy. These are things that affect your financial stability, the economy, medical problems, social or cultures, not reading the fine print. And I should have made that a little bit bigger font because the fine print is what gets a lot of us. Unexpected emergencies, unreasonable financial goals, unplanned shift in income. Life happens, folks, and not sticking to the game plan or the budget and letting the debt control you versus you controlling the debt. All of those things can have a tremendous effect on our financial stability and can cause us to be derailed. So just think about it. Think about those factors that affect your financial stability. I may have not added all of the things, and there may be some other things that can affect your financial stability that I've not listed. And I'm going to ask you, if you can think of some other things that could affect your financial stability, go to the Q&A box and let us know. Go to the Q&A box and just type it in. Latanya is there to check it out. She's our producer tonight. And just type in. And Latanya, when you start seeing comments, go into the Q&A box, let us know, and we'll just listen to what people are saying. So what are some other factors that I've not identified on this screen that can affect your financial stability?
All right, we have a comment. Becoming caretaker of a parent and or sibling of children.
You're absolutely right. And I don't know who gave that comment, but I'll tell you this, you hit the nail on the head. We are a family of 8, 4 boys and 4 girls. And before starting this live event today, I was over at the VA hospital taking care of my 75-year-old brother, who is a veteran and who had a stroke. And you're absolutely right. That can have an impact on our financial stability because life happens. But I was not the only sister there at the VA taking care of a sibling. There were other siblings there taking care of either a brother or a sister who was a veteran. So absolutely right. Any other comments coming in?
Yes, thank you for that comment, Barbara. You were right on the mark. Yvonne said that is exactly what she was going to write. And we also have overspending on wants and divorce, Cora.
Absolutely. You know, a divorce can really hit us in a terrible way, and it can really have an impact on our budget and on our finances. Here we've depended, most families are a 2-family income, and then there's separation or a divorce, and now you're relying on one income. Sometimes you can't plan for that. Sometimes you can, but it definitely, if it catches you off guard, it definitely can have a devastating impact on your financial stability. So thank you all. Thank you all for sharing your comments.
Cora, there's just one last one from
Yes.
Pastor Cedric Jones. He has long-term care needs and the death of someone part of your economic or cash flow.
Wow, Pastor Cedric, thank you. And you can see I've gotten your name right 4 or 5 times tonight, so I should get a feather. Just to let you know that our private joke, right? You are absolutely right. The fact that, something unexpected happened, not taking care of your long-term needs. As we age, things change, life changed. My husband is always saying how once we get older, we spend most of our time going to the doctor, checking on things, making sure everything, and there's usually a copay requirement if you don't have the proper insurance coverage. So you're absolutely right. All of those things can indeed have an impact. And thank you all for sharing. A lot of things affect us, but you know what? Hopefully you'll understand this one. This is really interesting to me because I really wanted to take a look at, if we know that there are things that can affect our financial stability, we got to understand that there's also a wealth gap that's out there, a wealth gap that is affecting Black and Brown members of the church and members of the community. There is that gap. And if we don't understand this wealth gap and how it impacts us, I think we'll be behind the ball. So it's really important that we stay current on this. And I want you to do your research. There's some homework assignment to take a look at the wealth gap and start thinking about it and thinking about, well, where do we stand? How does this affect my family? Where are we going to be? I found this bit of data looking at Black and white children raised in a middle-class household. 20% of the wealth distribution and where they would end up as an adult. And the information is really kind of staggering. Those individuals that are in the upper 16% of the middle 20% of the wealth distribution, the probability of Black children remaining in the top 20% is only about 5%, only about 5%. So just take a look as we go on. If we're at the bottom of the 20% of wealth distribution, only about 39, the probability of Black children being in the bottom of the 20% is about 39%. You know what this is all about? It's about education and opportunity. It's all about education and opportunity.
Cora, Pastor Cedric has his hand up.
Yes.
Good afternoon. Just a question for you to make sure I am understanding this correctly. The way I'm looking at this is that you have moved everything into quintiles, 20 to 0 to 20, 21 to 40, 41 to 60, 61 to 80, 81 to 100, right? So that's kind of where the distribution, that's those quintiles. And am I to understand that if my parents were in the bottom 20%, but I was raised in the bottom 20%, then I have, going to the bottom of the chart, then I have almost twice as much of a probability of being their child, of being in that bottom 20%. Is that the way I'm hearing it, or is it a different reading?
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. You're
So
absolutely
even
right.
those of us who, because of these generational wealth issues and the like, it's not even enough to just think about our own survival, because what I'm hearing you say is that even if those who are in the top 20%, they're raised that way, only the probability of their children, if they're Black, is only 5%. So we're losing ground generationally. That's the way I'm understanding, because I think if I add the columns, I get 100 for white or non-Black, and then the middle column was Black. Am I correct?
Yes, yes, the middle
Okay,
column is
thank you.
Black. And then, and thank you so much for adding that clarity, Pastor Cedric. I really appreciate it. It's about education and opportunity as well. And so today, we're going to share some things that we think are important that will build on the educational part of it. And opportunity is just that. We've got to seek out opportunities, and we've got to also improve on our skills in order to be able to identify what is available to us. So very good.
One more comment from
Yeah.
Herman.
Yes, yes, Cora, I love this. I love that chart, because what it says is it doesn't matter where you start. So if you're on the top, if you start there, that's lovely, but you still got to fight to stay there. You still got to know what to do to stay there. By the same token, if I'm at the very bottom, while that's not ideal, the good news is I can learn to do better. I can learn, and through learning, I can improve my station. So what that means is, we talk about education, call it another name, financial literacy, your knowledge of how you manage money. So for those of you out there who are confident in their financial literacy, that's great. For those who are out there that may not be confident, this is the incentive you have to want to get better. There's no shame to it. In fact, you can feel very good about wanting to learn more so that you can pass that knowledge on to your children and your children's children. Too often, we go through life not thinking to teach our children about money or how we relate to it. For example, you go to the ATM machine with a little one who's 7, you pull out the money, and then all of a sudden you come up to a situation where you don't have money. The little one might say, well, just go to the ATM machine and pull out money, because they see you taking the money out, but they don't see or understand the process of putting it in. That's a simple example, but we should not try to spare our children the burden of learning about economics, financials, or financial literacy. It's imperative that we take that extra step and teach them so that they can be empowered and have the knowledge to be successful in managing their finances. I just want to
You're
make that.
absolutely right. That's why we say it's all about education and also opportunity. And education coming first, making sure that we are savvy and that we understand. And Pastor Cedric was mentioning the money stories. We talked about that the last time in December, and hopefully there are people who are on the call that were a part of that discussion, that we all have money stories, and our money stories do not remain the same. Our money stories change over time. And at least we would hope that it would. As we learn better, we do better. As we learn more, we do better. So it's about education and also opportunity. There's also some other information that I wanted to share, and that's about the great wealth transfer. Some of you are in the baby boomer age group. Some of you may be in the greatest age group. And then we've got Generation X, Ys also on the call today. And there's been some tracking over our wealth. And it's been said 1 in 3 Americans who get an inheritance will blow it. What am I saying? 1 in 3. If we've not been taught, if we lack the financial sophistication and understanding, that inheritance, it will be blown away. Studies indicate that many recipients quickly dispense with their inheritance. That makes me think. The study found that 1/3 of people who receive an inheritance have a negative savings within 2 years of the event. I'm not making this up. This is true. There's the link, a Market Watch provides great information. We're not talking about a little money. It is expected between now and 2061 that there's going to be a large wealth transfer that's going to go to our children, our grandchildren. Forbes is predicting somewhere around $30 trillion. PNC is saying $59 trillion. CSBNC, $68 trillion. It doesn't matter how much, but it's dollars in the trillions that will be transferred to our heirs. And hopefully we've educated them enough and that they will be mindful of how not to disperse the funds or spend the funds up in a very short time frame. Now, what research is showing is that in about 2 years, now this wealth transfer can be made up of a lot of things. It could be made up, it includes wills, estate planning, life insurance, trust, just a number of things where money is going to be transferred over to another generation. So hopefully we prepared that generation before we've passed those funds over. I've only got one child. And although I've talked to that one child, I don't think she's ready for the great wealth transfer. And so we put some things in place, and many of you will have to do the same thing to make sure that those that are receiving the funds are prepared to receive the funds, and that the funds will be used in a manner that will be able to help them for the long run. You know, for a lot of our family members, many of them will receive equity that in homes that we've bought, homes that we've paid off. You know, they're saying on an average, the median housing equity in 2019 for Black Americans, Black neighborhoods was about $30,000. That figure increased in 2021 to about $89,000. Now, depending upon where you are in certain parts of the country, we know that it's a whole lot more. I did some research and looked at some homes in the Washington, D.C. area, and looking at houses that were purchased around the same time that we bought our house back in 1986, looking at what was the value at the time the house was purchased in Washington, D.C. in 86, and looking at that same house today and how much that house is valued at today. We're talking about houses that may have been purchased in 1986 in Washington, D.C. that only cost somewhere around $195,000. And that same house is selling today somewhere around $1.2 million. So it really kind of depends on where you are and what's going on in your market. We know that houses are appreciating greatly all over the country. The house that we're in right now in Orlando, Florida, has appreciated over $300,000. So it's happening all over the country. And I know, Latanya, there's been some hands up. Any comments out there?
Oh, there've been a lot of comments when you were talking about money earlier. They were asking if it was similar to lottery winnings.
Yeah, you know, it can go up or go down, right? And the inheritance absolutely is like lottery winners. We already know on an average, the average lottery winner will have money for approximately 5 years after the winning. And it kind of depends on how they get those funds dispersed to them, but usually that money goes through their hands quite quickly. Any
And
other comments?
yes, there was a comment with gentrification. We see that our children can't afford homes in the communities where they were raised, and then home ownership is challenging, widening the wealth gap. And I see Herman's hand up also.
Yes, Cora, can you go back to the previous slide, please? So this is one instance in which having the higher number in the last column, the 197, is not a good thing. And the reason why it's higher, this is an illusion because of a math illusion. The reason why it's higher than the others is because we started with a smaller base. So it takes a lower increment to have a big impact. And the way we can protect ourselves when we buy a home, a lot of times we get caught up in the emotion of buying a home, but there are certain principles you still have to carry with you through the home buying process. In terms of, it's always about location, location, location. And so you don't want to locate in a food desert, meaning there's no supermarket or anything that you can shop in the neighborhood. You want to make sure you buy good schools. You want to make sure that you have good services, community services around you. The very things that our parents taught us way back in the day, those of us who are of a certain age, those principles still hold true today. So just make sure you understand the long-term implications of buying a home. Don't get caught up in the emotion. It's a business decision. Make sure you come to it with a plan and a business unemotional approach.
Mm-hmm. And I think our next class that we're going to be discussing will be about home ownership for those of you who are looking to buy, and some of the things that you have to think about at that particular point. And you're absolutely right, Herman. Thank you so much for sharing that information. So what happens to those of us who inherit homes from our parents? Well, there's a population out there called opportunity investors. And the opportunity investors are looking around to see whom they can devour, right? We've kind of heard that a little bit before. And that happens, that opportunity investor, and you know, everybody's looking for an opportunity, right? Everybody is looking for an opportunity, but they're looking for sellers who are in bankruptcy. They're looking for sellers who are going through a divorce. They are looking for sellers who can't sell or whose listing has expired. They're looking for all of those types of sellers plus some in order to take advantage. And I heard just recently from a young lady who is representing someone in the state of Georgia who owns 15 acres of land, and they're renting 15 acres of land to someone. And this particular person is only paying them $2,200 a year. for 15 acres of land. I'm sure they're getting the trees off or the pecans that are on that particular property. They're collecting that and they're reselling it. And I can guarantee you 100% that they haven't bought the property. They're just leasing the property for less than $3,000 a year and making a tremendous profit. So know that there are offers, and some of you have probably gotten these offers from individuals saying, I'll buy your house for cash. Know that there's a title for those individuals, and they're called opportunity buyers or investors. And you really want to think twice about giving up the equity in the property that you have inherited, because over the long haul, and I don't know what that long haul time frame is. It could be 1 year, it could be 2 years, it could be right now. That house is valued at a whole lot more than the opportunity investor is offering you. So think about that. That whole great wealth transfer, we're talking about a little, somewhere between $58 trillion or $48 trillion to $68, $69 trillion. We don't know exactly what it is, but the thing that we know for sure, the great generation, the baby boomers are transferring wealth over to their children or their grandchildren. And so whose hand will the wealth be given to? And the hands that the wealth will be given to, are they ready to receive it? Do they have the right mindset? Have they received the right education about the things they should do? Have we done our part in educating our children, our grandchildren about this great wealth transfer? Well,
Cora,
yes.
before you go on, one of the
Yes.
statements was, what makes this a seller's market? That was one question. And what can we do about these investors harassing homeowners?
I can help with the investor
Okay.
question.
Well, let's talk about the seller's market. It's a seller's market because of the demand. Right now in our area, we may have 30 or 40 houses on the market right now. So competition is really great. Whenever there's low demand, low supply, there's a high demand. And so that's where we are. And the sellers are making out like a bandit because in most cases, they're receiving more than one bid on their property. So that makes it a seller's market.
And if I could add on to that,
Yes.
the other thing is, because it is such a stiff competition, sellers are taking advantage of the situation by saying, okay, now I want above my asking price.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go further and say, okay, if you're so interested, then I want you to buy my property, my home, without having it inspected. All right, note to self. I'm gonna go on video for this one. Note to self, never buy a home without having it inspected. That is an invitation for future problems. And there's an article that appeared in one of the papers that said a lot of people who paid over asking, a lot of people who went in and made the purchase without having inspected are now uncovering all the issues with the property that was not obvious to the naked eye, and they're experiencing buyer's remorse. In many instances, a home is one of the biggest, if not the biggest purchase you're going to make in your life. You do not want to be unprotected in making this type of transaction.
Is
And
there
that's what I
any,
wanted to help with.
Herman and Cora, are there any other safeguards that we should tell everyone about?
Stay with those core principles. Don't go forward without having the property inspected. Here's the other thing. If you pay over asking, you're banking on that price continuing to appreciate from that point. That may not be the case.
Mm-hmm.
That property could actually lose value, in which case, what are you going to do then? You want to make a strong and solid business decision based on the economics of the deal.
And I'd
Look at
like
what the
to
comps are
add,
saying.
and Herman, Valerie would like to add, especially for Philadelphia, to consider sewer line inspections. Tree
Yes.
roots are a real problem in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Tree roots are a serious problem right here in Florida as well. On any property, it can be devastating. And thank you so much, Valerie, for saying that. I think in addition to what Herman has said about the inspection, it's really important that you do your due diligence before you make a step, before you sign on the dotted line. There's some basic things that you have to make sure that you evaluate to see if the price really outweighs the cost in which you're spending, and that whether or not it makes sense in the long run. If you see that this particular neighborhood more than likely will appreciate in value. Remember, Herman said something earlier. It's about location, location, location. Often we fall in love and we want to go into a situation not thinking about the location. We're more in love with the house, but it really is about location, location, location. Very good. And thank you for the comments. This has been fantastic. Let's continue on. You know, I wanted to share this particular slide because this slide kind of looks at the different generations and let me go back, the different generations and what those generations are all about. You look at the greatest generation, and that's the generation that I'm in, reducing debt. We're all about paying down debt, overall low debt, highest credit scores for the most part. Then we've got baby boomers. Baby boomers are strong and steady in pursuit of the American dream. Many of the baby boomers, those that fall in the 47 to 65 year range. And then you've got Generation X. Not trying to put Generation X down or anything like that, but Generation X usually has a higher debt amount. They have student loans, they've got other debts. They're in the age of 30 to 46 and the lowest credit score often with that particular generation. Then you have Generation Y. These are the newbies coming into the credit industry between 19 and 29. This particular generation, they're building credit. They've got student loans and they probably have an automobile loan payment. And so as we grow older, our credit situation improves somewhat, okay? And it's because of a lot of factors, because we started paying down debt. If we bought a house in our youth, in our 20s, we have either paid that house off, or maybe we've refinanced it for a smaller amount and we've paid off other debts. So these are the generations. And maybe you can relate to this or not, but what is happening, that greatest generation and the baby boomers are the generations that are about to start transferring their wealth. And I thought, wow, I never thought about that. Let me show you some other information. Take a look at this. I wanted to look at what is the savings rate, the personal savings rate, because it's important that we save money. Now, I will tell you, at the start of the pandemic, all of us were saving more money. We had a pretty sizable savings account. We were afraid to spend the money because we didn't know what was going to happen. People were losing their jobs. We started getting stimulus checks and all of that, and we were putting that money in the bank or paying down debt. But take a look at where we are right now. In October, we were at 7.3%. November, we went down slightly. December, we went up to 8.2%. January, we're at 6.4%. Personal savings rate. Why do you think that there was a decline between December and January? Anybody, just go to the Q&A box and just let us know. What was the reason for the decline in the personal savings rate? December 8.2, January 6.4. Let us know. And Latanya, when you start seeing this information, please let us know. So guys, if you want to stay on top of the personal savings rate, here's the link for that, BEA, Bureau of Economic Analysis, It provides this information on a monthly basis. The next report will come out in March 31st. So you can get this information. It's very readily available to you. Latanya, any comments?
What we're seeing is holiday spending.
Yeah, yeah. And we talked a lot about that in the class that we had in December about making sure that we not go over budget for the holiday spending. And sometimes that can happen. It happens all the time, but it happens a lot primarily because of our money story and what's going on in our life. Okay, so I've got a poll question, and I'm gonna launch the poll question. It's pretty simple. How hopeful are you at being able to save $1,000 in 2022? And just be honest. I mean, the poll does not describe who you are. I've launched the poll. Please go ahead and start voting. We've got a great attendance. We've got 73 people on the call right now. And I'd love to see where you are with this. So people are chiming in, and let's give it a few more minutes. I'd like to get at least another 20 to 30 people to respond to this question. Just go ahead. And Latanya, I won't ask you the question, how hopeful are you? But I know we've done this before. And we've talked to people in the past about savings and how important it is to save. And here I'm just asking a question. How hopeful are you at being able to save this? And I'm not asking you to tell us or not, but have you ever seen people, well, have you heard the report that there are individuals that if an emergency happened and that emergency cost $400, that there are consumers who are not able to get their hands on $400. Have you heard that resource before? Have you heard that information?
I'm seeing a lot of different comments here, Cora, and things from felt like you had more money to spend before, feeling better about the ending of the pandemic. As the country started opening up, people were going out more, very hopeful. People are chiming in. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. And yes, they have heard that before. And as a senior, we'll save more. That's an important comment there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I understand, I can relate to that particular comment. I'm going to go ahead and end. Thank you guys for chiming in. I really appreciate you being a part of this particular poll. We've gotten quite a few responses. Let me go ahead and share the results right now. 80% of you all said, I am very hopeful, Cora. And that, you know, all I can do is give you an applause, a loud applause. Very helpful, hopeful that I will be able to save $1,000. Some are saying 13% is saying, I'm hopeful. I may not be very hopeful, but I'm hopeful that I can because I truly believe. And then we've got 8% of the population is saying, well, I'm somewhat hopeful. I'm not negative, and I do believe that there's a possibility that I can. I am somewhat hopeful, and I am so delighted to see that no one selected, I'm not hopeful at all. You know, and that just means that we're dealing with a group of people who believe in all the power. I believe that I can. You know, I truly believe I can. And, you know, for that reason, nothing can stop me from achieving any goal that I set out before. But I have to set the goal, right? I have to have a goal. You know, 1 in 3 Americans feel hopeful. 1 in 4 are on track with their finances going forward into 2022. A lot of people believe that they are in a position where they can start putting some money back. And that's a good thing. And it's all about a mindset change, really. It's about a mindset change, saying that I can. The impact of not knowing certain information, financial information, how to protect ourselves, not knowing can cost us money. Not knowing can cause us to click on a link on the internet, which is not a protected link or a secured link, and be take on malware on your computer. Not knowing could cause you to pay a bill that comes to your house because you're accustomed to paying your bills routinely and not reading it carefully, but because it's from a location that you know of, you don't check it out, but you know of this location and you go ahead and pay the bill that you didn't really owe. Not knowing can impact us. And so when we look at the impact of not knowing, then I want to talk about some things that you should know. NEFI conducted this survey, and NEFI surveyed a total of a little over 3,300 respondents last year, and really trying to figure out how does not knowing impact you, and what's the cost of not knowing. And what they were able to determine is that in 2021, not knowing cost consumers around $1,300. Now, I don't know about you, $1,300 is a pretty good amount. $1,300 could pay off a credit card or two of mine. $1,300 is nothing to sneeze at. I don't want to lose $1,300. So for me, knowing is important. There are 5 ways to regroup, prioritize, renew your budget. Well, how do you do it, Cora? You got to streamline your life. Streamline your life, right? Clear out the mental and the emotional clutter that we may have, where you stand financially. Open up the envelope. There are a lot of consumers that are not opening the envelope. They're getting the envelopes in on a daily basis, but we fail to even open up the envelope. Commit to making positive decisions. Start an emergency fund, $1 at any time, or as much as you can. Whatever amount it is, it really doesn't matter. Challenge limiting beliefs about yourself and about about how things should be. I can't do this. I'm not smart enough. You know, my family never had anything, so neither will I. Allow yourself to let go of the past and make room for new things. It's all about the way we think, right? Reorganize your highest priority. Know what is a priority in your life. Know what's important to you. And what's important to you, does it really make sense? Is it all about the purse that I walk into church with, or the shoes that I wear, or the way I dress? If I get a new outfit every Sunday, is that what is more important to you? Begin something new. Draw on your gifts and your talents. What I learned very early is that I can persuade individuals. I also learned very early that credit is something that I have learned, and it's second nature to me. It's easy for me. So I draw on my talent. I draw on what I know, the God-given gift that has been given to me. Take small steps. You know, some of us have had some challenges in our financial career, in our financial lives. Well, that's okay. That's okay if we have. So don't dwell on the challenges. Start making baby steps to improve on whatever your situation is. Start practicing, rewrite your money story. My money story has not always been what it is right now. I'll tell you the truth. When I was in college, I was young and stupid, and I did a lot of crazy stuff. I honestly did. And I had to rewrite my money story, not because I wasn't taught. I wrote a money story that was not counterproductive to me and my family. And I had to rewrite that money story. You may have to do the same thing. Decide what is hands off. My husband always says, how low will you go? And sometimes we don't have a limit on how low we will go with our finances. decide what is hands off. I will not touch my retirement account. I will not cash in life insurance policies. Revisit your finances over and over again. Review your budget. Take a look at your assets. Make sure that you're very clear on what's available to you. So 5 ways to regroup, reprioritize, and renew your budget. We all need to know this. Well, then there are some things that are priority. And I'm going to talk about some credit stuff. And I think it's important that we have this conversation because sometimes we get it a little twisted as it relates to debt, consumer things, consumer items. I want to share with you some information that I received from the Consumer Law Center. They've put out this document on an annual basis, and they really look at consumer debt and what consumer debt is actual priority debt. And so let's take a look at this, and I'm going to tell you why these things are priority. The first debt that is high priority is anytime that there is a court or legal judgment against you for a particular debt. Now, this is extremely important. Whenever there is a judgment against an individual, usually a judgment can be, a lien can be placed on any type of property, okay, particularly real estate. With a judgment, your wages can be garnished. So it's important that you know what the laws are in your state as it relates to wage garnishment. With a judgment, a creditor can levy on a bank account, on a checking account, or a savings account. So those are that's why judgments are high priority. You need to know whether or not your state, how does your state handle legal judgments? And that could be a judgment from Sears, a judgment from JCPenney's, any department store, or even any bank, okay? Any bank. And then you've got criminal justice debt. These are debts such as fines or fees. This is really important because it can impact your driver's license. It can cause a person to be picked up and put in jail for certain legal justice type debts. So make sure that you're aware of that and know what your state requires as it relates to criminal justice debts. And then we have automobile loans and leases. Now, the only reason that this is important and it's a high priority debt is because with an automobile, it's an asset. The creditor can repossess that particular asset, okay? One day you've got wheels to ride, the next day the wheels are gone. And it happens like that just as quick. They don't care where you are. I've been a debt collector in my previous life, and as a debt collector, I've repossessed cars. There's no limit as to how far we will go in order to repossess somebody's car. We would repossess it from the mall. You could be at a doctor's appointment and we repossess the car. In the apartment parking lot, we repossess the car. So repossessions can happen at any point. Rent payment for your residence, where you stay. Why? Because if you don't make those payments, those are priority. You can be evicted from the apartment. Utility bills. Some of us may have gotten a shut off notice in my life in the past. I know I have in my college years. So it's not a nice sight to be in a situation where your lights are being turned off or your cable is being turned off even. Child support debt. Child support debt is also an important priority because it can create some serious problems for an individual, including imprisonment for unpaid child support payments, going to jail for child support payment, losing a job because of child support payment. So there are so many implications on that can have a negative impact on an individual. Now, here are the things that can quickly become high priority. Remember, these are the things that are high priority. You've got to pay them regardless, and you should. These are things that can quickly become high priority. Your mortgage payment delinquency, you know, it can quickly become high priority, and you can be in a situation where you face a foreclosure. Now, it's important that you know what the laws are in your particular state as it relates to foreclosure. Some states are a judicial foreclosure process, which means that process can take months or years in order to foreclose on me if I have not made my house payment. However, some of you may be in a non-judicial state, like Latanya is in a non-judicial state, Georgia. Georgia, the quickest I've seen them actually take a property back has been 3 months of delinquency. So depending upon where you are and what state you're in and whether or not it's a judicial or a non-judicial can help you to understand how quickly this can become high priority. Federal student loan debt. Wages can be garnished with a student loan debt, and you don't have to sue a person in order to do that. So student loan debt, particularly if it's a federal student loan debt, these things can happen. With a private student loan debt, they have to take you through the legal process. Then taxes owed to the IRS can quickly become priority if you're not communicating with the IRS, letting them know that your intention to pay and maybe setting up a payment arrangement with the IRS. I've often said that the IRS is a great partner. I love them. They are good people to work with, and they will work with you. They will work with you. Now, these are the low priority debts. And I know some of you may have some questions or comments, and I will stop in a second to address those questions or comments. Low priority debts, and get this for me, okay? Because a lot of people are making low priority debts high priority debts, and we shouldn't. Low priority debts are medical bills. They are not priority. Medical bills are important, and you should pay the medical bills, but you can pay the medical bills over time. You can set up a payment arrangement. It is not a high priority like a car payment that's been missed. It's best you make the car payment versus the medical bill payment. Then you also have credit card debt. Sometimes debt collectors can make you think that they are top priority, but they're not. In order for them to do anything against you, they've got to first sue you and get a judgment, and that takes time. Right now, the courts are booked, and it's very difficult to get through for credit card debts, to get a hearing for a credit card debt. They're more in tune with listening to evictions and foreclosure type cases. You also have private student loans. They're important, but they're not high priority. They're low priority. In order for them to be able to get something from you, they have to sue you first. Then debts owed to a cosigner. You know, even though the cosigner may be a family member and they're very important to you, they're not high priority. And if you are a cosigner, I'm not talking about your debt, because in your mind, your debt is high priority. And it would be mine if it was my debt as well. But it is not. What is priority is the things where the creditors can take things from you. And then you also have deficiencies on a car. Whenever there's a repossession or something like that, that repossession, and there's a deficiency owed on the repossession, so sorry for them, but they get theirs when you get yours, right? Charge accounts, small loans, they're not priority. They're not. They're priority, but they're very low on the scale of priority. So let's take a moment and just see if there's any questions out there or comments from the group.
Cora, we've had a slew of questions. There are a lot of questions on wills and trusts. There are more questions about a home being in probate. What options are available to own the home without a will or an assigned beneficiary?
Yeah, and that is, I don't pretend to be an attorney. If we've got some guys on the call, Herman or Pastor Cedric or Pastor Kevin, that would like to comment to that particular question, please do so.
Sure. I will say this. I know enough to be dangerous to myself. And I'm going to say this, I'm going to be brutally honest. I don't know enough about this stuff, which is why I've been doing some research on my own. In fact, I think this is so critical, so important that this would be a great subject to have a deep dive conversation on. So if there's a pastor out there or a church that wants to host a deep dive session on this, I'm going to put my my email in the chat. Feel free to contact me and we can start making arrangements. But I will say this, probate in the easiest to understand terms, I think, is simply the legal procedure your estate goes through after you pass away. And you know, there's a lot of moving parts there, and I don't want to give wrong information and have somebody.
Armand,
Yes.
I echo your thoughts, and I really would like for Cora to recommend an attorney that specializes in this for a future session to answer these types of questions.
We do have an attorney that is part of our team that we've used in the past to talk about this. And what I would like to do also is to refer you over to another session that we are having this month. I believe it's the 15th, Latanya. And we will have attorney Latasha Green Cobb on the call that can address a lot of those questions. We can provide that link to the ministers. And if any of you are available, it is during the day though, the afternoon. I think the class starts at 1 o'clock from 1 until 2:30, if I'm not mistaken.
And Cora, I'm also Brother Ronald Williford of Enon says we have a wills and estates workshop at Enon.
Good.
So Pastor Murphy, that's one of your flock. So I'll be talking to you.
Yes,
brother.
he is, absolutely. And he's one of the
That's-
servant leaders for our financial ministry. And so we can certainly assist in that regard.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's
Sounds like a
wonderful.
deep dive opportunity. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And so
Please
as
let
soon
us know when it
Yeah.
is.
as soon as we get the information, for those of you who registered and we've got your email addresses, we will send that information out to you. If there is a class that will be scheduled, we'll send the information out to you. All right. And thank you so much. Thank you so much. Any other comments?
Yes, someone would like to know, is it better to lease or buy as a senior?
Oh, wow. You know, probably if you had asked me that question when I was in my 50s, I probably would have said to buy. But now, as a senior, I lean more toward leasing that vehicle. But in my state, I'm in the state of Florida, the insurance cost on a leased vehicle is extremely high in my state. I live in a zip code where the insurance cost is also high. So I personally would probably lean to buying even now, only because of the insurance cost that it would cost me if I leased a vehicle. Because they would have to take into consideration my age, my driving record, and some other factors as well.
I think the other part of that is your lifestyle. What do you like to do? How far you like to travel? As for me, I qualify as a senior, and I drive a lot. I'm known amongst my family and friends as a road warrior, and so that would not help me in a lease situation. That's going to drive up my cost. Plus,
Absolutely.
I have a history of a heavy foot, so you know when they look back and the insurance man looks back, he's not going to be my friend. So I think it really depends on your lifestyle.
Right. Any other questions or comments, Latanya?
No, ma'am.
All right, good deal. We'll continue to move forward. Very good. So be aware of credit repair scams. And I know we've transitioned from the things that you need to know as it relates to credit, looking at high priority, can become high priority and not high priority at all, low priority. But another thing we have to talk about is scams as it relates to credit repairs. For a lot of individuals, a lot of folks are looking at what's on TV. There are so many fix your credit quick schemes that are out there in our neighborhood, in our communities. And we really want to be very, very careful. There are a lot of companies that are giving all sorts of guarantees about improving your overall credit rating. And there's no way that they could do 100% guarantee on anything, because it's really based on whether or not the information you've given them is the truth, first of all. And secondly, if you do have a legitimate dispute. There are companies that are out there, fix your credit quick type schemes that are suggesting to individuals that they go out and get a business tax ID number and use that as their social security number. Use a different number. That's illegal. You can't do that. But people are doing that every single day. Be careful of the ads. Be careful of what you take advantage of, because if it sounds too good to be true, it is. What I would suggest, one of our partners in this whole event, our leader, is Human. Human has done a great job. He's with NFCC. He has really, NFCC is a great company. They have a slew of credit counselors or debt management counselors that can help you if there are some problems, or if you need help in trying to start working on improving your overall credit standing. I would recommend that you go to an approved NFCC organization before you go to a credit clinic, because they are there to be able to help you. Herman, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Cora. It is incredibly important that you pick a certified nonprofit counseling agency, and I emphasize certified nonprofit, because that way, you know, they're there to help you. You can search for, go to our website, nfcc.org, and put in your zip code, and you can find one of our member agencies that are in your zip code, that serve your zip code, and they can certainly help you. And as I said, I'm going to put my my email in the chat, but take this very seriously. I want to build on what Cora mentioned in terms of they cannot guarantee 100% that it's going to work, because as she said, it's in part dependent upon the information you give, in part your commitment to the plan. Once they go through and look at what your situation is and you've shared information honestly, they can come up with the best plan in the world. Unless you actually follow through and do consistently, it's not going to work. So take a different way. A lot of young men want to be stars in the NFL or the NBA. That I can tell you what to do that. That's easy. The problem is, are you going to accept the challenge to consistently and be disciplined in doing the steps that are needed to get you to that point? Kobe Bryant, when he was getting ready for the NBA, he would put up 1,000 shots a day. That means getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, going out in the snow, in the rain and whatnot, if you couldn't get inside. How many people are going to do that? So a lot of people focus on the want, but when it gets to the actual doing, you know what, I'm a little sleepy today. I'll hit it tomorrow. As soon as you say, I'll hit it tomorrow, that lets you know how serious you're not.
Yeah, absolutely. So just beware of these credit repair scammers that are out there, and they are scammers. All they're looking to do is to move your money from your pocket to theirs. And so you really want to be careful of that. Consumer debt, you know, this was something, and I probably should have said this when we were talking about cars with the question. This is a great bit of information that I found out recently through Kelley Blue Book. Y'all have heard of the Kelley Blue Book value of automobiles. It looks at the value of automobiles, and they provided some information which shows that how used car values have risen over the last few years. And the average price rose under $1,800 in 2019, $1,800. In 2020, over 3,300 used car. And now in 2021, it's unbelievable. That same used car that only had a value of just a little under 1,800 in 2019. Now it has an increased value of over $6,200. Now I was thinking, well, is this really true? And I wanted to check it out, but I was talking to someone recently, and it is true. A young man is looking for a car right now, the same car that he bought a year and a half ago, that's now total, to buy that same car with more mileage is now worth $6,220 more, a little bit more than 6,220 in 2022. So this used car values have increased dramatically. I think it's false inflation, to be honest with you. We know it's the same car. It may have 10,000 or 40,000 extra miles on it. And could it really be worth that much? It's really about the demand. And there is a big demand right now for used vehicles in the market. And so demand is driving the cost of these vehicles up. So we talked about then protecting our investment, not just our home, but other investment. Then we look at our home itself. Is there something out there to help us protect our investment if we're a renter? Yeah, I mean, there's programs out there right now. The U.S. Treasury Department has made dollars available throughout the country, including in the state of Pennsylvania and Philadelphia. The Philadelphia Housing Finance Agency is a great partner. They provide an awful lot of information. CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, also provides great information. And also HUD.gov provides some great information on the resources for individuals who are renters. There's a lot of money that has been made available. We've been hearing that a lot of local governments, the city has used up all of their funding, but there's another pipeline of dollars that are coming out to help those of you who are currently renters, and also for those of you who are homeowners as well, to prevent a foreclosure. You know, the thing that I like about this whole thing, if we own a home and we find ourselves in a situation where we may be delinquent and we can't make our payments, there are programs out there to be able to help us, particularly with mortgages. There's the loan modification, a forbearance agreement, a repayment plan, a short sale, a deed in lieu, reverse mortgage, a mortgage assumption if the property is assumable, and then also bankruptcy is an option as well. And you can look at that in a lot of different ways. Either a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13 could be an option. However, we don't recommend that individuals go that route if they can avoid it, because sometimes they still end up losing the home. But I would recommend, if that's part of your thought process, check out a HUD-approved housing counseling agency, and also be very careful of mortgage and rental relief scams. There's a lot of it out there right now, a lot. In every city, in every county in America, there are scammers that are out there. So before I go to this next section, and we're almost over, and I appreciate every single one of y'all for hanging in there, I just want to do a pulse check with Latanya to see if there's any questions or comments, aha moments, or anything like that.
I have one question. If you could go back to the slide before, so that I can place that website in the chat. There is a question about where should someone go if they just figured out that they, after 8 years, did not file taxes for 1 year. All of her other taxes are done, but after checking, she realizes there's probably a small amount owed. Who should she check with at this point?
I would seek out the advice of an accountant, somebody that you trust.
That's right, a tax accountant.
Yeah, a tax accountant for sure. Because, you know, I've been there. I intentionally not paid my taxes when I first opened up my doors as a business owner, because there wasn't enough money coming in order for me to pay the taxes and also pay staff and pay myself. and which doesn't make any sense, but that's how I logic it out. And I found very quickly that not paying Uncle Sam cost me a lot of money. And from henceforth, I've always figured out a way to be able to do it. And I also found out how easy it was for me once I was totally transparent to be able to work out an arrangement with them. And so it's not I mean, I understand the angst and the feeling, but it's not that big of a deal if you act upon it. So I would get with someone reliable, someone that you trust, that understand that type of business and that can assist you in submitting those back reports that need to be submitted. Once they're submitted, then at that point, you start negotiating a plan to start paying the debt and paying it off. And the good thing is that you're saying that you don't feel that it's a large amount. I can tell you what I owed was $42,000, and taxes and interest on $42,000 is not a small amount to sneeze at. But I can tell you, I worked very hard and I was able to pay that $42,000 off in a year. And I have not gone lacking ever since. So once you learn better, you do better, right? And thank you for even asking that question, because a lot of people would not ask. So thank you so much for even raising that issue. I appreciate it. Anything else, LaTanya?
No, Court,
Let me just add to that.
Sure.
There's two people who get my attention. That's Uncle Sam and Aunt Iris. And she spells her name IRS. She wants her money.
Yes.
Now, you can't hide from Aunt Iris. But if you call her and her people and let them know, hey, look, my bad, I'm so sorry. You can negotiate with them, and if need be, or make it a payment plan over time.
Yes.
But you have the advantage of you identified the omission, you're coming to them to make right, feel empowered to negotiate, but absolutely use a subject matter expert and a tax attorney to help you do that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Herman. I appreciate it. So let's talk about your consumer toolkit. And you need to do a screenshot on these next slides if you have your phone handy, because I really want to make sure that you get this and understand what laws you should be aware of and know about. If you are a consumer, which we all are, you need to know the consumer protection laws that protect every single one of us. It's not just for Pastor Cedric or Pastor Kevin. It's not just for Herman. It's not just for them. It's for us too. And so know these consumer protection laws. This is your toolkit for today. Know about the Fair Housing Act and how that act protects you. Know about the Fair Credit Reporting Act, how that particular act protects you. The Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, the Fair Credit Billing Act, and also the Equal Credit Opportunity Act. These are all important. There's a total of about 72 consumer protection laws that are out there. And these are the ones that I feel are important for you today, that everybody on the call right now should know these particular laws and know what these laws are all about. Let's talk about the Fair Housing Act and what fair housing is all about. You know, the Fair Housing Act really looks at discrimination and a landlord refusing to rent or sell a house to me, refusing to negotiate for the sale or the rental of a house, making housing available to me. And they're saying it's not available to me, but the really reason it is available, but it's unavailable to me because of the color of my skin, setting different terms or conditions or privileges for a property. I bought the house, and the house has a community room, and I can't use the pool at certain hours of in this community room. These things are discriminatory. Know that we are all protected under fair housing. We are all protected. So know what fair housing covers, know that this is a regulation. If you feel that you've been discriminated upon, know this particular regulation and know who to go to in your community that can help you file a complaint, a consumer complaint about anything that is discriminatory, that issues that are being raised up against you. That is the Fair Housing Act. Then we also have the Fair Credit Reporting Act. This particular one is really important to you. It entitles you to a free copy of your credit report, first of all. If you have been denied access to credit, you can obtain a free copy of your credit report from the 3 bureaus, and it's based on the report that was pulled. So if the creditor used an Equifax report in order to make their decision, first of all, the lender has to tell you under the Equal Credit Opportunity Act that I used Equifax, and then you can go directly to Equifax and get a copy of your credit report for free. If you are a victim of identity theft, and you can place a fraud alert on your credit file, and you can also get a copy, a free copy of your credit report if you are a victim of identity theft under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Also under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, it allows us to be able to dispute anything that is inaccurately being reported on our credit profile, anything. So we paid off a house back in the, I think, late 80s. We paid that house off, and it showed on my credit report that the debt, the house itself had a 0 balance, but yet it reported that I was 3 months behind on a 0 balance account. Under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, I can dispute anything that is inaccurately being reported on me. If I am receiving public assistance under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, I can get a free copy of my credit report at any time. I can review my report because I am a recipient of public assistance. If I'm unemployed, I can, and I'm applying for employment, I can request a copy of my credit report in order for me to see what's being reported, because there are some employers that will look at your credit report and base their decision on what's in your credit file. So if your credit file is inaccurate and there's information there, you can pull a copy of your report for free, and also from the 3 bureaus directly, and also be able to challenge those things that are there in the credit report that is inaccurate. I think the most important thing, or one of the other things that a lot of people ask me a question about as it relates to the Fair Credit Reporting Act, is how long does information stay on my credit report? And you know what? The laws changed, and it changed a long time ago. The laws changed back in 1997. It actually took effect in 1998, that items on my credit report and your credit report cannot remain on my credit file for more than a period of 7 years if it's regular credit card debt. Bankruptcy stay a little bit longer, around 10 years is the time frame on bankruptcy. But what has happened is consumers are thinking, and they're being misguided for a lot of reasons, because there's bad information out there on the internet that says that this information can continue to stay on your credit report forever and a day. If you make a payment, if you change an address, if they call you, you pick up the phone. There's a lot of bad information out there, but that's not the case, okay? Know that the Fair Credit Reporting Act protects us. And come back, because in maybe not the next class, but the class after that, I think we'll have a conversation about credit, and we'll go into that a little bit more detail. The other thing with Fair Credit Reporting, it looks at disputing incomplete or inaccurate information. You can dispute anything that is inaccurately being reported. And if you see that there are violators that continue to put information, you can also file a dispute against that particular violator, that credit furnisher, in order to maybe receive some sort of restitution as a result of that. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, if you are currently disputing information and you can't seem to get anybody to listen to you, I would file that dispute through the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They have been excellent at working with individuals and resolving any type of credit issue. The other point about the credit report, annualcreditreport.com is a government-sponsored site. Under annualcreditreport.com, you can receive a free copy of your credit report from the 3 bureaus. You can pull a weekly copy of that report up until, I believe it's April 22nd or April 1st. Herman, do you have the date on that? I'm not 100% sure if it's April 22nd or the 1st. Do you know? All right, Herman has not come on, so we'll come back to that. And Latanya, if you could look up that date for me, we can give it to him before we leave. The big thing is the ability to pull free weekly credit reports. That's the big thing. You also have the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. This is really important because you may have debt collectors that may be calling, or you may know someone who has a debt collector that's calling them. Know that you're protected from that debt collector. They cannot call before 8 a.m. They cannot call after 9 p.m. They can't say that they're going to send you back to another country. They cannot, if you tell them that they cannot call your workplace, they're not supposed to. They can't harass you. They can't use abusive language. They can't use deceptive practices about the debt, you know, and it happens all the time. That's how debt collectors are trained to do that in order to motivate the consumer to pay. But those things are illegal. Another one is the Fair Billing Act. The Fair Billing Act deals with how do you deal with any charges on your credit account that shouldn't be there. So know that this Fair Billing Act is important to you. If there are charges on your credit card account, first of all, you need to dispute that item. And I'm gonna show the answer to this question. Under the Fair Credit Billing Act, the consumer must file a dispute within 60 days after the first billing with the error that was shown up on their billing statement. The creditor must acknowledge your complaint in writing within 30 days, and within 90 days, it should be resolved, okay? And so that's the Fair Credit Billing Act, and that's why that particular regulation is so important. And then the Equal Credit Opportunity Act also deals with discrimination, about based on my race, color, religion, national origin, sex, marital status, and age. And a lender cannot refuse to extend credit to me because of any of those particular factors. That's illegal. So before we end, I know that there may be some questions or comments. We got a few minutes to address that. And then we'll close out and turn it back over to Herman, Pastor Kevin, and also Pastor Cedric.
Cora, I see that Jacqueline Peace has her hand up.
Thank
I
you.
am going to allow her to talk.
Sure.
All right, Jacqueline, let's see. I see her hand up. Let me see if I can unmute her. Let's see.
You might have to do it, and she might have to do it as well.
Okay, Jacqueline, you should be able to unmute yourself at this time.
My question has been answered.
Oh,
Oh,
thank you, Jacqueline.
sorry, I was late on that, Jacqueline.
That's okay.
Appreciate you.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else, Latanya?
Not at this time.
Okay, all right,
Oh,
good.
wait, I do apologize, guys. I just saw one last one. What strategies can be used for homeowners that are being harassed by investors?
Oh my goodness, you know, I won't tell you what my brother used to tell them. It's not the right thing to say on the call, but I would just politely ignore them. My colleagues in this industry, they're not as polite as I am on the phone with these guys that call. Right now, my home phone is unplugged. I keep it unplugged for that very same reason, because I work from home and they're calling me repeatedly. Those that are soliciting to buy our house through the mail, I just simply tear it up. I don't respond to any of them. I don't open my door for anybody that I have not made an arrangement for somebody to come, because they come to our neighborhood. Our neighborhood is a hot neighborhood and they want to buy these homes and resell them. I just don't, I don't participate in the conversation. Thank you for asking the question, though. I really appreciate it. That was a good one. Anything else, Latanya?
Not at this time.
All right, very good. So let's take a look at some of the resources that we have available. We always talk about seeking wise counsel, and wise counsel is the NFCC. The wise counsel is Freddie Mac. Freddie Mac provides a lot of great information. They've got a series going on Credit Smart Essentials. It really is a great collection of information about being credit savvy, and it helps you to learn a lot about credit. It's free to consumers. You can go and register for Credit Smart Essential. Freddie Mac also has Homebuyer U. Again, it's a really good piece of material that is available. We also have HUD-approved housing counseling agencies that have HUD certified counselors. Again, that's a trusted source of information. The Federal Trade Commission is also a reliable source, and where you get your credit report from. We don't recommend some of these other sites. The only site that I recommend as a practitioner is annualcreditreport.com, or you can go to MyFICO. Annualcreditreport.com is free. MyFICO will cost you $19.95 per report. And I usually pull my FICO report at least twice a year for me, because I've been a victim of identity theft in the past. And then we also have Diversified Resource Network. That's the website that I manage. And we have a consumer section that is totally free to consumers, where we've combined some really helpful links, some videos that you can go to that provide information on just a lot of information on different things that could be helpful to a consumer. All of this information here is totally free. All these resources are resources that you need. At this point, I'm going to see if there's any other questions, and then I'm going to turn it over to Herman, who will then share the floor with Pastor Kevin and also Pastor Cedric.
We don't have any more questions, but I did want to add that at myhome.freddiemac.com, there is a refinancing section. If anyone has questions on refinancing, feel free to go there. Thank you, Cora. Let's turn it over to Herman.
Awesome. Thank you both. I appreciate you. First, I can't go forward without first thanking Cora for her wonderful, extraordinary presentation. She pulled it together, she presented it, and Cora, you did a fabulous, fabulous job. Let me let y'all see me. The other one, I gotta also thank Latanya for being a producer whose name should be in any envelope on any award show, for keeping it together and helping us to get through it. Thank you both. Of course, I gotta thank Pastor Cedric Jones and Pastor Kevin Murphy for being so supportive of this initiative, for making it available to their members. I genuinely hope that everyone who dialed in saw some benefit. I gotta thank the audience. Thank you so much for your kind intention. It was incredibly obvious that you were engaged, that you were listening. And again, I hope you got some value out of this. I want to let you know that we're going to have 3 more top line sessions. This is a top line session. The next will take place June 3rd from 4 to 6. The topic will be managing credit. After that, September 9th, it'll go from 4 to 6, and that's buying a home. And then in time for the shopping holiday, November 18th, 4 to 6, shopping responsibly. So those are what we had planned. As you heard during this session, there was one, a profound interest in estate planning, and Pastor Murphy is going to help us create a deep dive. We will communicate the time and date of that session when we get it planned, but that's exactly what we want to have happen. As we come across topics and subjects that you want to learn more about, share it with us and we can arrange these deep dive sessions. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'm going to pass it on to Pastor Cedric Jones.
I believe Pastor Kevin was going to go first, and then I was going to finish us out.
Okay.
So I want to make sure that Brother Associate Pastor Kevin
There you go.
Murphy can share.
Thank you for yielding a minute of your time, kind sir. Again, I want to thank everyone involved, especially Sister Cora for a wonderful presentation, and Sister Latanya as well, and Pastor Cedric Jones for partnering in this thing, and especially Herman Palmer, who is a good friend of mine and pulled me into this, and he told me, man, you have to get involved in this, and he was absolutely right. There is one thing I would like to announce. There will be, to use consistent language, a deep dive on life insurance sponsored by the Financial Ministry of Enon Tabernacle on next Friday, March 11th. It's at 6:45. You can email me at kmurphy@enontab.org, and I can get you that information if anyone is interested in that. God bless you all, and thank you so much for your participation. Back to you, Pastor Jones.
Thank you so much, Pastor Kevin Murphy. Let me also, for those who are from the tab, also give my thanks to my colleague and a friend, your pastor, Brother Pastor Alan Wallace. I thank the Lord for his support and his leadership and his affirmation of the great, fantastic work that Kevin Murphy is doing at Enon Tab. So we thank the Lord for that. There was also a comment made earlier that Enon was hosting something. And so I just wish to make sure that that gets put in the tab so that that would be there. I'm not talking about the life insurance piece. I think there was an earlier comment made that something may already be scheduled. It came from one of the servant leaders of Enon. Just wanted to make sure we didn't miss that. Okay, that would be done. I would appreciate it. So let me finish up this way with it. It is so important for all of us to protect what we have worked for. There are so many examples in Scripture of the God of generations. And so none of us serve a God who just arrived on the scene in our generation. We're not necessarily finding out things that were not known before. We're expressing it in our time. As Acts says about David, he served the Lord in his own generation, and may that be true for us as well. And so as we do these things, we do shared ministry. That's our language at Mount Zion. And so I am tremendously blessed by Associate Pastor Kevin Murphy of Enon and jumping on this invitation and making sure that Enon was aware of it. I've expressed my gratitude to Pastor Waller and grateful for every congregation that is represented today. Some of you found out through emails and other forms of communication. Every church, we're grateful. And so all of these are that are scheduled for this year are free. And everyone is invited. Invite your family, invite your friends. It's too important to each and every generation not to have access to this. As you go forth in this Lenten season, maybe there's one thing regarding what you've heard tonight that you can take advantage of and decide to do, whether it's attending the seminar in this Lenten Day period that was just posted online, that will be next Friday. Do I have that right? Pastor, it looks like Friday, March 11th is the life insurance one at 6:45. So make sure that you do something with this information, and make sure that even as you proceed with learning for yourself, please think about the other generations that are coming behind you. It's so important for all of us to think that way. And for those generations that are before us, part of our asset preservation is making sure that your mother, your father, your grandmother, your grandfather does not lose an asset that they worked hard through the years of building, only to be hoodwinked out of it and did not know, and we did not protect them from these vicious people who only want to get something for virtually nothing. And so protect in each generation, knowing that God loves righteousness. God is not happy with oppression. And God is not happy with us squandering opportunities. For much of the Israelite story, particularly when the northern kingdom was lost in 722 to Assyria, the southern kingdom was lost in 586. What does that mean in this terms? Everything that God had promised them was squandered and lost because of ignorance, unrighteousness, and rebelliousness. Thank God that we serve a God who can redeem and restore. And so if you've made mistakes like I have, we thank God for the God who can redeem and restore, especially in this season, because many of us need to get ourselves together so that we can experience the resurrection and new life that God has for us financially and in every walk of life. So may the Lord bless you and keep you. For Mount Zion members, we will get connected on our phone line at 6 o'clock, just a couple of minutes away. And the same Lord who is blessing and keeping all of us, may that same Lord protect you. May that same Lord give you the peace that comes with greater understanding and wiser financial stewardship. In all of these things, may you go forth in love, grace, and power. God bless y'all. Good night. Shout outs to everybody who did a fantastic job. The thanks have already been given. I simply say amen to it all. And you can say amen to it, and we can get on out of here. Good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
All right. Amen.